All right, good evening and welcome to the end of day one recap here at the SCCA Runoffs presented by Garmin Verb. I'm Heyward Wagner here with Jeff Lepper, and we are going to take a little bit of time to recap the day's events, talk a little bit about what we did today, what we saw on track. We might even pull a celebrity driver or two up on stage and talk a little bit about day one qualifying. And Jeff, the story of the day has to be this sheet of paper right here. It has my internet password on it. It's a series of letters and numbers. It's actually the trap speeds of today's qualifying pole sitters for a couple of classes. And folks, if you are over in the tent and can hear these numbers, I've got a bunch of flaggers over there, the guys that are standing the closest to these numbers being generated. This is what you felt today. Formula V did 126 miles an hour.
Sketchy.
B-Spec did 115 miles an hour.
More sketchy.
I did not know those cars could do that without being dropped out of an airplane.
But they have to go that fast or else they just roll down the embankment here. So you have to stay that quick to not fall down.
So let's get to the really terrifying numbers. American Sedan. Oh, with Spec Miata. Anybody want to take a shot at the trap speed for Spec Miata today? Anybody?
Come on, Paul.
122.
What was the question? What? 125. You are wrong. You are low. We're playing Let's Make a Deal. You're in the right ballpark. 140.
She's really close.
She's close.
Yeah.
Spec Miata did 137 miles an hour in the trap. Is that sketchy?
Which is just past start finish, right before the braking zone for turn one.
Right. That is the moment in which God taps you on the shoulder and says, now's a good time to ease up just a little bit. Spec Racer Ford, third generation. Anybody got a guess on that one? 143 is close. Here comes the jet dryer again. 151 mile an hour in the trap for Spec Racer Ford Generation 3. Now we're going to get to a really terrifying numbers. American Sedan, we're going to talk to John Heinricy here in just a moment. American Sedan ran 171 miles an hour in the trap. 171 for what, John, nod if I'm right here, a production tub, correct? This actually started as a real car running 171 in the trap. T1, which theoretically if you had to get groceries, you could drive a T1 car to get groceries, did 182. And GT1, Mike Lewis, fastest trap speed of the day at 196.4 miles an hour for GT1. Folks, that's not the scary one.
How about a round of applause for Mike Lewis in that, huh? 196.4. That is, wow.
That's because he probably had to hit the brakes 100 feet before your speed trap.
John's probably right. Lewis was probably on the brakes 100 feet before he got into the trap, carrying that much speed down the straightaway. Here's the one I want to talk about.
That's the big one.
Calvin Stewart did 156 miles an hour in an F5 car today. No wings.
No arrow. No downforce.
Barely suspension. Unbelievable.
Must have drawn his feelings out in this track here, as bumpy as it is in an F5 car with no suspension.
I am really looking forward to watching these cars tomorrow now that we have a little bit more of an education on it. Speaking of education, should we bring up our first guest?
I think so. John Heinricy?
John Heinricy. We have
join us.
3 classes this week, is that correct?
Yes.
Three classes, man.
So John, the 3 classes you ran in, the trap speeds for those classes on the front row, 196 miles an hour for GT1, 171 miles an hour for A Sedan, and 115 for B-Spec.
The fastest, the slowest, and one kind of in between. One almost real fast, right?
You're in 2 of the fastest top 5, easy. Talk a little bit about the difference here at this track, driving these big high horsepower cars and then jumping into the little B-Spec car and running around with them.
The little B-Spec car, you kind of wonder if you are still, or if you're even started yet. You're wondering, I got out on pit straight and I stepped on it and I got on the radio right away and said, there's something wrong with the engine. It's not running, it's in backup mode. I think it's decelerating, not accelerating.
Now, obviously, everything at Daytona Draft is going to be super critical. B-Spec even more so. When you were qualifying today, were you able to run in clean air by yourself? Are you partnering with somebody? How did that play?
I don't think there's anybody that's willing to partner with me. I have no good friends in B-Spec. The Sonic is definitely on the outside, but I did, on my very last lap, I actually came through the bus stop, and I think it was Stan Zaki in the T4 Honda was going through the bus stop, and I came through a lot quicker than him and kind of ran right up into his bumper coming out, and then he kind of gave me a tow halfway around the turn 4 there before he pulled away from me dramatically.
Anybody here you're afraid of? I mean, I know Brian Price, you've raced with him in Pro World Challenge when he came out and raced, Derek Ambrose. Is there anybody that you're watching out for in B-Spec?
They all scare the shit out of me.
Can we get an edit on that race? We're good. Keep going. Keep going.
That one.
No, there's, I think Brian Price is really strong. I think David will come on, Dotery? Yeah, Dotery. David will come on real strong. I think Matt, I didn't see what he ran today, but Matt did some really good stuff in World Challenge when he ran up at Mosport. I think he was, he might have been on the pole there the first day for the first race up at Mosport. So I know Matt's real good. So I think there's a good challenge, especially if they get hooked up with each other and do some drafting. That's where it'll be tough for me, because right now, like I said, I don't have a drafting partner.
You know, you are the 800-pound gorilla in the B-Spec room. You've got obviously a fantastic car, obviously a Hall of Fame level driving resume at this point. Everybody is expecting this to be, you know, if John Heinricy enters a B-Spec race, we're racing for second. But the margin that I'm looking at right now between you and Darren Seltzer, you know, we're looking at less than a second, 0.8 of a second.
Yeah.
How important is that qualifying position? How important is that, you know, when you've got the size bullseye that you do on your back, how important is it to you to have that margin?
You know, from what I've seen before with the B-Spec, it doesn't matter that much, because you can almost pass at will if you've got drafting partners. So you can get around, and then it's a matter of you getting behind, and now it's your turn, and you have to figure out a way to get by. So I'm not sure it's going to make a lot of difference, because I don't think there's any way I can stay ahead of drafting people out there in the first couple of laps. So that's going to be, I think that'll be pretty tough.
And are you approaching these next couple, I'll let you ask the next question, I promise. Are you approaching these next couple of days as trying to get a race set up? Are you, now that you've got a good time in on Monday, is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday about prepping for the race, or are you still trying to chip away at that qualifying time?
Well, if I get a better qualifying time out of chipping away at and making the car better, that'll be good. But mostly I just have to get the car set up for the way I want it for the race. So I'm trying something every day. Every day I've got something different on the car that I'm trying, whether it's tire pressures or tire compounds or something like that. I'm trying something every day, just trying to get it better.
So, John, you've done this a long time. You're 3 classes here this weekend. Why? Why do you keep coming?
Because it's so much fun. Yeah, it's a challenge to me. It's you know, I'm not getting any younger, so as long as I can do it, I'm going to do it. My wife, every once in a while, I talk to my wife about it and say, maybe I should just, you know, quit and do something else and relax a little bit. And she says, why would you want to do that? You know,
then you would just talk to her more.
Yeah, there's only a limited amount of time that you're able to race, so you better take advantage of it while you can. And I enjoy it so much. I just enjoy the teamwork. I enjoy setting the cars up and making them good, and then driving the crap out of them if I can. I just enjoy the hell out of doing that, and I'm not about to give up. And the competition is always really good. By the way, you mentioned the 800-pound gorilla. What's David got? 7 championships,
Pretty
I think?
close.
Yeah,
7 now.
6 or 7. I think he's got 7 championships.
So he's the 700-pound gorilla.
Yeah, he's no slouch. I'm the 1,200-pound one. He's the 700-pound one, right?
Speaking of lack of slouching, flipping this page over here to A Sedan, you got Tom Slow, John Heinricy, Adam McDermott, in that order, the reverse order of how Sports Car picked you guys, with the top 3 picks at the front of the class, a decent margin between the top 4 and the rest of the field. Talk a little bit about coming to a track like this with a competitor like Andy McDermott. You know, what kind of a mindset do you have going into qualifying, going into races when you're dealing with somebody with that kind of a resume and approach to the sport?
Well, you look at Andy's always really fast. Slow Tom is always really fast. You know, so. When you look at a track like Daytona, where you've got 2 really long straightaways, it's not that there's more straightaway here. Like Road America and I think Daytona are really close to the amount of straightaway, but there's only 2 here and 3 there, so the speeds are so much higher. And I think the Mustangs definitely have a power advantage, but they also have an aero disadvantage to the Firebird. So I've been kind of banking on that. But you know, you just know those guys are going to be really fast, and so all I do is just keep working on the car and just kind of plan it out and say I'm doing everything I can to make the car as fast as I possibly can, and then just go after it. And the The other big advantage I have here is I think I've run 13, 14, 15, 24-hour races here, and probably another dozen 4 to 6 hour races here, regionals and HPDEs and that kind of thing. And you know, Tom comes here and he hasn't been here before, and I don't think Andy's been here before. So it's not a hard track to learn, but you know, there's some daunting speeds out there, and they'll pick it up. They already have, obviously. So hopefully they won't go too much faster in the next couple of days, because I don't think I can.
Are you planning for weather here too? I mean, obviously there's some rain Wednesday, Thursday.
I hope it rains for the race.
Yes, we want it to rain for the race.
Yeah, we already got our dry qualifying in. Now it's a matter of what's going to happen for the race. So I'd be happy if it rains, because I usually set my sedan up a little on the soft side so that it's going to be good in the rain, and I've always had an advantage if it does rain. So I would look forward to that. And I ran a couple rain times with the GT1 this summer too. That the car was really good in the rain. So if it rained, I think I'd be a happy camper, as long as I can keep the windshield defogged.
Now, John, obviously everybody who's here, whether driving or working or spectating or crewing, has some fandom of this sport. Are there any particular races that we're going to see you hanging on a fence watching? Or are there anything that's jumping out at you as, I mean, obviously that Friday night race is on everyone's radar, but what excites you about the runoffs and other categories?
Well, the touring categories is kind of something that I've always had a lot to do with. You know, T1, T2, T3, I think I've driven in every one of them, so I enjoy the very production-based cars like you were talking about. That probably shouldn't be going 180 miles an hour at Daytona, but I really enjoy those cars because I worked on them. You know, the racing packages that GM was selling, I had a lot to do with the package on every one of those cars. So once you get attached to them like that, that's kind of where you normally go. It's like if your dad's been racing Formula Fords, and when you grow up, you're going to love Formula Fords. So I like GM door slammers. So that's what I kind of tend to pay a lot of attention to.
And now here, how do you set a car up here? Do you set a car up for the straightaway, or do you set it up for the infield? Or do you try to find a happy medium?
Are there any competitors in the audience?
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Okay, I'm not telling you that.
Okay, good. Never mind. Little race secrets. You got to keep quiet here.
If you were going to set up a car in, I don't know, a totally different class, for example.
Yeah, Formula Fords, I think you want to go for the handling, right?
Probably, yep. Any car that doesn't have well, the hint's obvious. You guys know this as well as I do. Any car that's not at the limit on the banking, you forget to set up for the banking. As long as nothing will break when you're on the banking, then there's no point in setting the alignment up or the chassis up to run the banking, because you're not cornering hard. So you set it up for the infield. If you're cornering hard, like GT1s, okay, you're out there coming out of turn 4 and you're kind of sliding up towards the wall coming out of turn 4. So you better put a little bit of that banking handling into that car.
You mentioned before running some 24-hour races here and other Pro Series. The speeds that we're seeing now in club racing, how does that compare to what we're seeing in the Pro Series here?
I think the first GTO car that I ran here, a GTO Corvette, didn't run a speed any higher than what the T1 car is running. You know, probably about 185, and that was without the chicane. The first race I ran here, 1984, was a GTO car, and they weren't running the chicane at that time. And even at that, I think 180 something was our max speed. And here you've got a T1 Corvettes or whatever, BMWs or Mustangs probably, that are running in the 180s. I don't know who was running really fast. Probably Andy was probably 180 or something. Yeah. I mean, that's just flat amazing, isn't it? He's probably got more horsepower. He's probably got more horsepower in that car than I had in my GTO Corvette when I ran here.
Yeah, 2012 Ford Mustang Boss 302, and then Mark Bowden. Surprise there, though, the 09 BMW M3, the E46 chassis. That shock you at all, I think? I mean, that's kind of surprising to me to see a BMW second place in the T1.
Well, he's been really good. I mean, they've been running really good every place they run. I think Mark would have said it would have surprised him if he wasn't in first. So
he's probably more surprised than in second.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me that AJ's up there. You know what he can do, and he's good at building, setting up, and driving all three. So he's a fantastic guy.
Perfect. Well, cool. Well, we'll definitely wish you luck, and try to go for 3 more championships here this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. I mean, if I can get 1, I'll be happy. If I get 2, I'll be elated. And if I get 3, you might even see me be excited. And you might see me be excited.
All right. There we go. Well, cool.
Well, thank you very much, John. We appreciate you sitting down with us.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you.
That's exciting stuff with these trap speeds, and then having John Heinricy here. It's just what runoffs is all about. You know, we talk about the history of this, you know, sport and amateur racing coming through to the national championships. I mean, that's what this is about.
And when you bring it to a venue like this, you know, we were obviously at Laguna last year, Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, as Mr. Prill reminds me. You know, being at these truly world-class venues for the last several years, and now coming to what is a world-class venue on yet another level, where you have the facilities and the infrastructure and all that, this event feels even more special than any other runoffs has.
It really does. I mean, I think people want to see those bucket list tracks that they have. You know, you want to go race Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. That's something you grow up racing, and you see the Can-Am cars racing there and running around. You come here to Daytona, I mean, world center of speed, the Rolex 24 hours, the Daytona 500. If you could win at Daytona, you don't have to say I'm a NASCAR racer. You can say, I won at Daytona Speedway. That's some cool thing to add to a resume.
Speaking of cool things to add to resumes, Mr. Prill, first of all, for those that may have not read every page of Sports Car in the last couple of months, a new job title for you this year, Chief of Operations for SCCA. Talk a little bit about what that position is, what you're doing now with the club.
Well, what we did was we did a restructuring at the end of 2014, and we essentially rolled all of our competition departments up kind of under one massive department. So our solo department, our rally department, our road racing department, all now in one operations department. And that's not to say that we've completely redone everything that people are accustomed to and that they've loved and enjoyed about this club. But it gives us an opportunity to share some best practices and take a look at our programs with some fresh eyes and potentially draw from some of the other programs and improve.
Now, obviously, we are working together on a regular basis, so I know the answers to some of these questions, but I'm going to ask them anyway for folks that may be listening here or tuning in later at home. The Runoffs is now a traveling road show. We were in California 12 months ago. We're now in Florida. You cannot get further apart from that unless you go to Oregon. We're going to go to Ohio next. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges to moving the event place to place and how we as a club have found solutions to face those?
Well, first of all, the decision to move the runoffs around was really based on recognizing that we had probably unfairly been biased toward the East Coast for many, many years. And the decision was made by the SCCA Board of Directors that we wanted to make sure that the runoffs continued to be the national championship event for everyone. And being able to move it around to bucket list tracks that people want to go to, Mazda Raceway last year, Daytona this year, back to Mid-Ohio, you know, one of the absolute.
Where are we going after that, Eric? Where are we going after Mid-Ohio? Where?
Soon. We will know soon.
Is it Canadian Tire Raceway at Mosport?
It could be.
Stay tuned.
But moving the event every year, it essentially starts from scratch. When we stayed at a racetrack for 3 years, 5 years, 12 years, 20 years, there was a lot of familiarity to come back to. You could leave stuff at the facility. I mean, at Road America, we had an area on their facility where we left a lot of things year to year. So it is a little bit like reinventing the wheel to a certain extent. We have a lot of great region support and knowledge to draw upon, but it's a unique event. It is unlike any other event that is put on all year. So what it's really become is it's become a tall task for our staff, and our staff has done a great job this year. We do rely on great region resources, and we have that this year with the Central Florida region does a great job. And we have to, it's an education process when dealing with a new racetrack that hasn't done this. And yes, we've been here before, but it was in 1969, which it was before I was born, but I think that was about the time you were born, Heyward.
That's the year my hairline was born.
Yeah,
exactly. I was born
yes.
Roughly a decade after that.
But it's an education process to the facility, to the track. And we've changed the model, the way we do this. We're now putting the events on ourselves where it used to be promoted by the racetrack. We're doing a lot of that ourselves now. So there's a learning curve with that. But I think that the results show that it's really being well received by drivers and workers alike and fans as well.
So numbers, how many entries?
We're going to be just shy of 600 this year, which is up from last year. It's it's probably a few less than we expected, honestly. But it's good numbers. There's good competition, and that's all we can ask for a national championship race.
It really is, and you get a track here like Daytona International Speedway, and of course the weather it's hot, but it's still manageable, which is nice. Some rain, hopefully not in the forecast, but going to racing now, for you, you're double duty here. You're running F production, and you had a first qualifying today. How do we do there?
P2, so I'm pretty pleased with that. Would like to be P1. There's a little black midget from Petaluma,
It's the tallest midget I've ever seen.
California. Joe Huffaker, of course, the legendary Joe Huffaker, he's got me by a 10th. So, but we've got 3 more sessions, so we'll see what we can do. I just got out of tech, so I would have changed and logoed up, but literally just got out of tech.
So, a lot of discussion.
Hourly.
We're
paid hourly. That's good.
Reese, how much longer do you want us to do this?
Keep going.
We're done?
Keep going.
Keep going, okay.
Yeah. Good talk.
We have Prill, though. We got to keep going. We can't end this.
A lot of conversation in the off season about aero packages, what's going to have a good lap time here. Some nervous drivers with open cars not sure that they would have the performance here. You and Joe literally picking up where you left off at Mazda race with Laguna Seca, running right on top of each other. Talk a little bit about what you've seen today in qualifying, what you've experienced yourself, and whether those concerns are coming to fruition.
So the big thing in my class is there's the ability to do some bump drafting, and we see it with Spec Miatas, we see it with some other classes. We have a lot of Miatas in F production, and they line up very well. The bumpers all line up together. So there's been a lot of talk of bump drafting and how to maybe work together as teammates. Whether we haven't quite figured out how to do that properly, which I'm sure is 90% of the issue. It didn't really work out that way today. I actually turned my time all by myself. I caught a little bit of a draft off of some H production cars that were punching a big hole for me. Interestingly enough, the 2 fastest cars in that session were the 2 fastest cars in segment 1. So it was getting it done in the infield was important. And I think that at the end of the day, just as John said, when you've got a car that you can basically drive with your pinky around the banking at 135 miles an hour, you've still got to get through the infield part of the road course is still very critical. And I think we saw it in H production as well, where the fastest car in H was a couple seconds faster than the next fastest car through the infield. So for our class, aero is certainly important, but everybody punches a hole for everybody else, so it's going to be a drafting battle. I'm not sure that anybody's going to want to lead going into the bus stop on the last lap, because they're probably going to be a sitting duck.
What do you think? I mean, obviously, there is a number of car lengths lead you can have at that point and be safe. What do you think that may be? Does somebody need 10 car lengths? They need 15?
I have an idea. Yeah, I mean, it's probably around there, because you just have to beat them to the stripe. They can get to your bumper, or they can get even alongside of you a little bit. So it's getting through the bus stop is critical. And if you don't get through the bus stop well on the last lap, whether you're first or third or fifth, you're in trouble. You're going to go backwards. So probably 10 to 15 car lengths. I mean, you can pull a draft from a long ways back, but that's a lot of time to make up as well.
In an open cockpit car, can you feel that? Can you feel when you get behind somebody and it changes the visor, the air hitting you?
I had to actually put I raced at Kansas Speedway earlier this year, which is, I thought it was going to be similar. It's not similar at all. But it's still a high-speed track, and we were seeing speeds over 130. And I found that I had to put a little, just like a wicker bill on my windscreen to keep my helmet from lifting and buffeting around. And as soon as I put that on, it, like I said, I couldn't believe what a non-issue going that fast was, because at some other tracks you go that fast. You go that fast at Road America, and you got tight grip on the wheel, and it's kind of an exhilarating deal. And you're out here, and the only reason I know I'm going that fast is I look down and I've got a GPS speedometer in my car. And it's like, I'm doing 140. Now, when someone's pushing you, it makes the car nervous. So you do have to hang on. Yeah, it's not scary, but it gets your attention.
I bet it does. So, going back to the club part here for SCCA, what do you envision the runoffs? Is it going to be always a traveling show? I mean, eventually we're going to run out of bucket list tracks. So we just keep going to those tracks for the next generation, or how do we do this?
I think that, I think we will return to some of the tracks that have been in the rotation for sure.
Is it a hit and miss thing, or is it a...
Well, it depends on, we seem to have this, established this rotation of, we started in the middle of the country at Road America, then we went west, now we're east, then we're going to, move across, and we need to get back out west in, whether it's 2017 or 2018. So at some point, your options will be limited in parts of the country as far as what's a bucket list track and where we would return. So, I would foresee that we'll be returning to some tracks at some point, but
Need to get that?
no, I don't.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
All right.
Sorry.
Make sure.
This is live,
We
right?
can go to a commercial.
You're gonna edit that out.
Yeah, we got commercials. It's good.
So I would suspect we're going to keep this rotation going. I know that the staff would love to stay somewhere for a second year or return to a track that we've laid the groundwork with. And I think we'll have that opportunity in the next few years. I don't see it coming, in the next couple of years, but maybe come 2020, perhaps we can start looking at returning.
Do you see the fans that are here, of course, like all the great workers that are here again? You sure you don't need to get that? Nope. Okay, good. I just want to make sure. I got mine too. We can call and text back and forth. But to help grow the fan base in the Sports Car Club of America, we talk about that West Coast versus East Coast thing. Is this going to help that membership, you think? I mean, this will, and especially the new generation coming. I was the first generation, the kids, dads racing, and now I'm here, and my son's getting ready to race. We're all kind of that. So now we have to catch that next generation now. Any ideas about how we can do that? What do we need to do to get that?
The best way really is to look at the things that Heyward is doing with the experiential program and a way to engage people and get their and pique their interest to do things with us. People that go out and do these activities for the first time end up staying with the organization that they start with most of the time. It's familiar. People have that friendships that they've built and developed, and so they want to stay. So things like Track Night in America, driven by Tire Rack, and thank you, Eric. You've got the hat on, so. These are things that will help bring that next generation in, and we need to continue to have good competition programs so that after they get their feet wet, if they want to look for competition, that we've got a place for them to go. And we need to work on the entry levels of our competition programs. There's a lot of discussion about that. There's room for growth there. There's room for improvement in working with our regions on the ground and local areas. And then obviously, the crown jewel being the runoffs still needs to be an event that people aspire to come and participate in. And just like you do and I do, it's an important thing, and it's the goal at the end of the season. So it's multifaceted. We've got to have that thing that really drives people to want to be a race car driver and aspire to race at an event like the runoffs or a pro series. But we've got to have a place for them to start, and we've got to really make sure we have a really firm path in between to get them there.
Excellent. Thank you for your time, Eric. I know you've got a car still in impound, I think.
Just drove it out.
Drove it out. So
pick it up.
We'll let you get back to that. We've got about 10 minutes left on this for Jeff and I to run through some results real quick. But again, thank you, and thank you for the kind words about the experiential programs. We'll do more advertising on that later, I'm sure.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys.
Get a bigger budget now, right?
Exactly.
So you talked about it. That's what I got to get. Cool.
All right, Jeff, we talked a little bit about trap speeds. I want to talk a little bit about margins now. I've got Spec Racer Ford third generation. We got 36 cars qualifying in SRF so far, SRF 3 with 29 cars. Of those 36 cars that qualified, 15 of them in the same second. And that's the second in the class. You've got Cliff White at a 2:14.3, and then almost over a full second back to Lee McNish at a 2:14.3, 2:15.3, and you don't get to 2:16.3 until you've gone 15 drivers deep.
It's one of those you got to think about. If you're a betting person, pick a different class. You need to go find something that's got like a second and a half. I mean, T1's 1.7 from first to second. That's a class you want to bet on. Spec Racer Ford, Spec Miata, no way. Do not bet on these classes. That's crazy when you talk about how close it is. So really the whole sports car, pick a winner, all that stuff, you should throw out the window here because anything can happen with that draft. Like Eric said, you may not want to be that lead car coming out of the bus stop. You may want to be the 6th place car.
Where do you want to be? Do you want to be in 2nd? Do you want to be able to pull the draft off of 1 and 2 and 3rd? Is it going to be the guy that drops the 4th? I mean, at some point in time, you can't go any wider than you already are. We can't run 12 wide. But realistically, if you could script it, where would you come out of the bus stop?
I think I would have to be 2nd place. I think 2nd place is where you want to go because the guys behind you, they want to make a move. They're waiting to make a move. If you make that move, they're going to go with you. So I think if you can stay in 2nd place and then make the track as wide as you can or make that little Spec Racer Ford as wide as you can, hold everybody off behind you, I think you'll have the advantage being 2nd place out of that bus stop.
Now, another class that we need to talk about on margin, I'm saving the big one for last, just so everybody can be aware. Formula F, the Honda motor, the Kent motor. Tim Couch had pretty much a disastrous year last year.
Even at the runoffs, too.
Yeah, at the runoffs, just really nothing went his way that week. He's sitting 4/10 clear of the field right now. He has 4/10 on the rest of the field, and there's 9 drivers in the first second. What does it say about a driver when they're able to establish that kind of a margin in a class where really you're running virtually spec equipment?
It really is. I mean, that tells you how great his equipment is. It tells you how great of a driver Tim is. I mean, he's been around this game for a long time. He's been in these cars for a long time. He's driven a multitude number of chassis in this class. So for him to come out and do that, it really shows you the prep level that he's done, the practice he's done at this track. I talked to him a little bit earlier. I am announcing the Formula F group, so he said that he's been in some simulators and practicing. Never been here, so for him it was exciting for him to come here for the first time, and then to just tattoo the F field the way that he did really shows the caliber driver that he is.
Now, I think there's a perception that this track is not terribly technical, particularly when you compare it to a Mazda race with Laguna Seca where we were last year, or Mid-Ohio where we're going next year. You've driven here, you've driven a wide variety of tracks. What is the challenge like here at Daytona?
Well, you get to that infield and it's so flat. You don't have any banking, you don't have any curbs to really bounce off of and get your car to rotate. So you have to get your car to handle on the infield. Like Eric said and John said, the Toyota Yaris, Jason Eisen, Ace Production, he is 2 seconds faster on the infield, but then lacks on the oval. So you have to have that infield set up. It's so flat to get the car to turn and rotate. That's where you're going to get key here on the infield.
And when we're talking about the smaller formula classes where we're seeing the incredibly tight packing of times, with those lower horsepower, lower to the ground cars, how does the infield affect them compared to the prod cars that we've been talking about?
You're going to be your middle exit speed off the track. So where your middle corner and coming off the track is where you're going to be advantaged. So as quick as you can get into that corner and off the corner. Sometimes slow in, fast out. Smoother the better. And those are the cars that you make one little mistake, you could drop 4 or 5 positions back.
Well, I'm gonna make the mistake one more time of trying for a little audience participation. And folks, if you could just perk up from hey Donald Drennan. We're gonna do a little. I need you to be the judge. Don. How many Spec Miatas in the first second of qualifying? Get the answers. How many Spec Miatas in the first second of qualifying? Pole is a 219.659. That runs through 220.4. How many Spec Miatas?
0.8 of a second.
0.8 of a second. How many of them are there?
9.
Wrong. 8? Wrong. 18 is the correct answer. Of
18 cars within not a second, 0.8 of a second.
Yeah, the only reason that there's only 18 cars in the first second is because the biggest gap in the field is between 18th and 19th. There is a 6/10 gap between 18th and 19th, and 18 cars of the 57 that qualified. You talk about not wanting to bet on something.
No, not at all. No.
I mean, how do you even prepare as a driver for this? What does the mindset have to be to go into a 57 car class with 18 cars in the first second? And oh, by the way, you're going to do this under the lights.
Yeah, it's going to be dark Friday night, under the lights. Sparks are going to fly. You're going to see people bumping and banging in Spec Miata. I think you're just going to want to play the draft. I think the biggest thing in Spec Miata is the teams that are here. If you can get a teammate and just draft the entire race, you will have the advantage. You can draft on the infield. You can draft through the kink because you're flat out through that kink. the braking zones, you back off a little bit, they get right on that guy's bumper again through the infield, back onto that oval, and you just tuck in right there. If you get 2 or 3 cars in a team, that will be the advantage. You could have possibly a guy that may not have a chance to win, get up on a podium just because of his teammate is going to bring him there.
I'm gonna ask Reese a question here because I don't remember. But did we run green flag start to finish with Spec Miata last year? Do I remember that correctly?
I think so.
Yeah, everybody had this perception that last year with Spec Miata that these West Coast guys have been chomping the bit and waiting for the chance to get it. Now finally have a chance to try to win a championship, and they had an incredibly clean race. Is this going to be a case of lap after lap of guys waiting, and then the last couple of laps be just sheer chaos? Are we going to see a separation, do you think, or is this going to be just a grudge match start to finish?
No, I think you'll see a separation, a distinct separation between the top level guys and then the people behind it. I don't want to say everybody's here, you're here for a national championship, but there is a pack of cars that you will see pull away. And I don't think so. I think that the track is wide enough here. There's really not a lot of danger areas for these guys to make a dive bomb move on somebody. When you get a dive bomb move made here, it's clean because you got the room to do it. So it's not a blind entry, blind apex that we used to see at some other tracks like Mazda Raceway to Vineseca, where you turn the wheel and you pray that you got the guy and he sees you. Here it's pretty distinctive. So I think it'll be a nice clean race.
So we're wrapping up day one. Everybody's had a chance to be on track. You, unfortunately, were not on that list, a mechanical issue. But talk a little bit about what's going on in the paddock right now. Are guys changing setups? Are guys, we talked to Heinricy. He said that he's kind of had his qualifying session. It was dry. He put his time in. Now he's working on dialing in the race car. Is qualifying such an important thing here that people are going to continue to chase pole times, or have people kind of done what they're going to do and now we're going to start working on race setups?
I think tomorrow we'll see more people doing for qualifying times because 90% chance of rain on Wednesday and 60% chance on Thursday. And I think that scares a lot of people. The guys I've talked to said, I need to get a time in. I need to get that banker lap in. And if you didn't get it done today, you have that one more chance tomorrow, and you may not run again until race time. There's no reason to go out and qualify in the rain when you already got a banker lap in Friday or Monday or Friday or Tuesday. So we'll see how that plays out. I think you'll see a lot of guys still trying for qualifying times though. Track position here will matter.
And for those of you that are tuning in at home and following the event, watching the live timing and scoring, what are the classes tomorrow that you really think people need to have an eye on? Who is really going to have to get something done tomorrow?
I really like, and I haven't seen it, was that STL class. That's a cool class. I was out there watching those classes today, and my dad's racing it, so that's why it's so cool. But we saw Paul Whiting on it. But the premise of that class, it goes back to the generation I grew up, the Honda tuners, the 2-liter Honda motors. The car's got to be 2 liters, so it's the Spec Miatas are there that you tune up a little bit better. The Hondas. I think it's going to be the funnest class to watch. I'm interested in watching that class, and I definitely want to watch GT1 again because I got a glimpse of that this time, but I missed that.
196.4 miles an hour in an amateur race car.
I want to see if we can break 200. I want to see if those guys can get a draft and break 200.
Well, for those of you tuning in at home, keep an eye on those trap speeds. We'll see if we see the magic 200 number. Jeff, I appreciate you sitting down with us for a few minutes. We will be back tomorrow. Reese, who are we having tomorrow?
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
We will figure it out.
Producer extraordinaire right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Get a couple beers and we'll figure it out.
All right, so Heyward, Wagner, Jeff Lepper from day one at the SCCA Runoffs presented by Garmin Verb.